A joint statement from the UK, France and Canada is turning up the heat on Israel, warning of concrete action if it continues its military offensive in Gaza. The leaders accused Israel of blocking essential aid and risking violations of international humanitarian law, calling the human suffering in Gaza intolerable. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired back, accusing the Western leaders of handing Hamas a huge prize and vowing to press on with plans to take full control of Gaza once Hamas meets a list of demands including laying down arms and hostage release. As pressure mounts, Israel allowed a limited aid delivery into Gaza for the first time in 11 weeks. Only a handful of trucks crossed through Kerem Shalom, mainly carrying baby food and nutrition supplies. Let's listen in to what the United Nations stated on aid.
So yesterday there were 9 trucks that were cleared for entry. Out of those 9, 5 of them actually crossed into Gaza, if you like. For logistical reasons, 4 of them were not able to enter. As you know, the crossing has different stages, and there is a repacking, if you like, from one set of trucks to another set of trucks before. The last level where the 5 trucks entered are still under Israeli control, and we need permission to pick it up. That did not happen yesterday. However, this morning, we do have the permission to collect those 5 trucks.
Furthermore, UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher called the delivery a drop in the ocean, warning that 14,000 babies could die in the next 48 hours without aid. The UN says about 108 trucks have been cleared to enter Gaza today, after just a trickle got through yesterday for the first time in 11 weeks. And as diplomatic tensions rise, Israeli strikes continue. At least 73 people were killed since midnight, including 22 in a displacement shelter in Gaza City, among them children. We have guest Ahmed Fattoh, spokesperson for the Fatah movement, joining us live from Ramallah. Ahmed, is the growing international condemnation enough to sway Israel's course in Gaza, or will Netanyahu stand firm on his military objectives?
First, we welcome the statement that came out from France and the UK and Canada, as well as the statement by foreign ministers of Japan, France, Spain, Sweden, and other European countries. That's a step forward. That is an important step forward. Although many positions is very late after 19 months of obvious extermination war that crossed all red lines, humanitarianly and politically. That is, of course, need a translation on the ground. These statements are not enough. We need implementation. Israel is obviously, according to every human expert in this planet, are committing a war crime that is the war crime of the century, as described by many experts. Therefore, what is needed from the international community, especially Europeans, is to redefine their relations with Israel. Now, there is a news that they are right now discussing this in the EU that need immediate action. Cutting the arm embargo is important, it is vital, because these arms are used to kill women and children. It is obvious right now that Netanyahu is after an endless war that want to push the Palestinian out of their lands and to expand its colonial occupation. Now the world need to stand clear here to stop this catastrophe, man-made catastrophe, as well as to provide a comprehensive political solution that end this misery. Statements or uproars in the media are not enough. We need a political program that stop the war, achieve ceasefire, immediate resumption of humanitarian aid in Gaza, stop all aggression by the Israeli army and its colonial settlers in the West Bank, by the way, which West Bank right now is suffering immensely as well from terrorism by government-sponsored Israeli terrorists, and as well as to go to the two-state solution, which is the only viable solution to end this entire carnage. This madness that Netanyahu is leading is going to lead the entire region into collapse and will retaliate to the entire world. The world needs to pay attention for a 19 months of misery and tragedy that beyond imagination that shocked the entire world at large.
And where do you see the diplomacy heading, provided there has only been statements by the world leaders and no actions as of yet?
As I said, I really hope they translate these actions based on our shared universal morals, principles, and international law. The Western world is largely involved in this war, whether they say it or not, but these arms did not pop up from thin air. Israel received these arms from United States and from the Western world. Now that needs to stop. France and Saudi Arabia is going to initiate an international conference for peace and two-state solution. That requires global support and global momentum to stop this occupation. 77 years of Israeli occupation of Palestine need to stop. All that what we are seeing is the result of the stalling and allowing this catastrophic occupation and apartheid to continue for the past 77 years. The Israeli settlers movement in the West Bank and their colonial settlers expansion is a crime against the humanity, is a violation of international law. It's surprising that it's still happening for the past 40 or so years. Now,
Yes.
Israel is receiving a lot of funds from the United States, a lot of funds from the United Kingdom, a lot of funds from France and others. That need to stop, because Israel is in a violation for our principles and international humanitarian law, is violation for the consensus solution for the question of Palestine, which is the two-state solution. In 1993, the Palestinian Liberation Organization has signed the Oslo Accords, which states that we accept 22% of our historical lands, our indigenous lands, for the sake of peace. Israel made that historical sacrifice for peace that the Palestinians made by furthering their occupation, furthering their oppression and aggression for the past 30 years. Also, Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel, was assassinated, the one who signed the peace with Yasser Arafat, and also Yasser Arafat was assassinated. So we all can see where are the problem for the matter of peace. The world needs to act, and to act decisively. In 2025, it's a shame that children are dying from hunger, a man-made famine.
And with only a trickle of aid allowed in after 11 weeks, Israel says it's taking steps, but is this too little, too late to prevent a full-blown humanitarian disaster?
It is very little. 5 trucks to come for a population of 2 million who have been starving for the past 2 months and more. That is nonsense. That's crazy. The situation in Gaza is extremely dangerous. After more than 60 days of lacking all sorts of food, medicine, fuel, people are devastated. As Tom Fletcher from the United Nations said, 14,000 children are threatened to die in 48 hours if we don't act immediately. I'm very surprised the United States is still not acting. It's very shocking to everyone that we are witnessing 14,000 children in need for food, and food is just few kilometers away, and they are denied from accessing it because Netanyahu wants to kill the Palestinian people. This is madness. This is carnage. Now we have to understand that starvation is a sudden catastrophe, which means that the lack of malnutrition, the lack of food causes malnutrition and many diseases and many sicknesses, that if it continues, it could hit largely, because people are for months are without food and without medicine. There are many diseases that has spread because of the continuous war for the past 19 months, and with many radiation elements in that war, in these bombs. Many chronic disease patients are not receiving their medication constantly. Also, we have about 90% destruction of Gaza. Where are we going with this? Immediately, Gaza needs hundreds of humanitarian aid, and blocking that aid has nothing to do with Hamas or with the war as Netanyahu claimed. This is directly to kill and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people. I can't believe there is anybody today that believes Netanyahu nonsense. It's time that the world wake up. It's time for the world to speak. Enough injustice.
And Ahmed, as a local resident of Ramallah, can you tell us, are there any updates on the ongoing ceasefire process?
As Witkoff said recently, Netanyahu wants an endless war. The delegation that went to Qatar to negotiate for the ceasefire came with the intentions not to reach a ceasefire. Netanyahu says the war stops when the hostages are released. Hamas said, and the Qataris said, and all the media Egyptians said, that Hamas are willing to give the hostages. As we have seen in January, in a few weeks of negotiations, more than 150 hostages has been released. 19 months of war, and Netanyahu think that this is the way he can release the hostages. It is pretty obvious where Netanyahu is going, and if you are observing his internal issues, he is trying to avoid the corruption cases that he is having inside Israel. So he wants to prolong the war to avoid this going to prison. He also wants to prolong the war until the next election to remain in power. And we also know that the far-right fascist Zionist movements inside Israel has declared and announced publicly, officially in every opportunity, that they are seeking the Greater Israel colonial plan, which means occupying the entirety of Palestine, parts of Lebanon, parts of Jordan, parts of Egypt, and all this colonial madness that they confess on live TV every day and every now and then. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Ahmed Fattouh, spokesperson for the Fatah movement. And we move on to China and Taiwan. China has just said that they are willing